4 additions to the agenda. At the 10:30 slot, we'll add Sheriff Grace and a 911 presentation. Under financial, we have action to take on the law library, child care, and the clerk register of deeds scanner. Any other additions to the agenda? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the December 30th, 2013 agenda.
Approve.
I have a motion by Wilson, supported by Berner. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Minutes have been corrected for the December 10th meeting. I think there were just a couple of words that needed to be changed. It did not change any of the content per se. One being the word the other being the word bore. That should have been board.
You might have been bored.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for December 10th, 2013.
I'll support.
I have a motion by Wilson, supported by Christenberry, to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good. Now approval of the Board of Commissioners closed session minutes for December 10th. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Commissioners closed session minutes for December the 10th, 2013.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Christenberry, supported by Wilson. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Public comment regarding today's agenda. Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll move right on to the order of business. We will skip Mr. Cy Weekly at this point. Weekly. Was he going to make the presentation, or?
Supposed to be here.
My understanding also. So we'll move on to Randy Booth.
Morning.
Would you please explain this situation?
I'll try. Bob asked me to come speak with you today and kind of explain the ambulance bills for the ATV runs for the township. And I guess I'll go back to the beginning, the original contract. We agreed to house it. Our firemen from the Luzerne Fire Department would deliver it and take care of it, take training, the maintenance, whatever needed to be done for the ATV rig for the year. For that, the county paid us $750 up front, and then any expenses over that, we were to be reimbursed for. So in April of 2013, we submitted a bill. The total expenses for the year were $2,171.17. Minus the $750 we had received in the beginning of the year, left a balance of $1,421.17. We submitted that bill on April 16th, and you guys had some questions about it on the amount and whatnot, so I met with Commissioner Borner and went over it, and a lot of it was the expenses over the racetrack and what had gone on with having to deliver it there and whatnot. And so I'd shown them the memo from February that I gave to my board on the charges, what we Our fire department actually wanted us to bill quite a bit more than this, and we reduced the cost what we thought were acceptable, and the total on the racetrack stuff was $879.84. After that meeting, you guys sent us a check for the racetrack portion, $879.84, which still left a balance of $541.33. And I'm not sure why that was. Then, after that, we sent another bill in July for the $541.33 balance, and you had me meet with Jason, your new ambulance director. We went over it, and he reviewed it, and I went over the same packet of information with him. And he had an objection to the ambulance paying for it. He thought that some of it should come out of the county general fund, some should come out of his fund. You know, it's, to be honest, that's between you guys what fund it comes out of. We're still maintaining, you know, it's $541.34. We did subsequently send a bill, and he wanted it split out with $143.30 being billed to the county and $398.03 being billed to the ambulance service. To date, neither of those have been paid, so it's still at $541.33. And the question was, when you got the last billing and it was the last amount, that it was a new billing or new charges that we were giving you. It wasn't new charges. The charges are the same as they were from April of 2013.
Why do we have a maintenance training fee?
They had us take the ATV rig up to Lewiston for maintenance, and so that was maintenance. As far as the training, to take that out to on site and deliver it, our fire department personnel had to have training to load and unload it from the trailer, take it out to a site so they could drive it for the ambulance crews when they got there. That was part of the original contract, that we would have some of that would be training for the personnel.
40 hours?
Yeah.
That seems excessive.
We have 16 firefighters, and when we have a meeting, there's like, they come to the meeting and they all took turns driving the rig, loading it, unloading it, and getting familiar with your machine. So the training meeting, I don't know that it was 40 hours of training.
That's what it said.
Dwayne can probably answer better for that.
The training was not only for our fire department, but for the ambulance personnel out at the racetrack. We had about 22 people totally out there. We trained, asked anybody that had never driven it to drive it, so the training was just not our fire department, it also was ambulance personnel.
Only 7 people have took this ambulance up to the fairgrounds according to your chart. Why did we train all of them?
Because when a tone comes out, we don't just have one person call and says, I'll take it. It's whoever's available at the time. We need to offer the training for all our firefighters. Just like when they respond to anything, we offer the training to all of them. We don't limit it to 3 or 4 people.
And it takes 2 people to drive out there and drop it off?
Our township policy is that our fire trucks do not leave our building without 2 people. They can't do
Fire
anything.
truck, yeah.
It is a fire truck.
Truck.
It's a fire truck.
Most of the time it was Dwayne's personal vehicle.
Never.
No.
One
There was
weekend,
maybe once or twice,
one-
but 90%
one
of the time it
weekend,
was always the vehicle.
I'll back
always
that
fire
up.
vehicle.
One weekend, Dwayne had to use, his truck was broke, and he asked the board permission to utilize that truck as a personal vehicle for a weekend. But other than that, that is our fire truck.
You got in here, you did standby at the racetrack?
They didn't stand by at the racetrack. We
It
didn't
says
charge them for
including standby at racetrack, right on the first page.
Each one of them says
Yeah,
that.
so what were you standing by? You guys left the vehicle on the left. You did stay there all during the race.
Yes, we didn't charge you for 6 or 8 hours. If you look, we charge you for 2 hours. If we were charging you for standby, the races lasted for 5 or 6 hours. The time would have been exceedingly higher. Some of the guys are going to volunteer and stay their time, but the guy at the racetrack decided to charge them $8 to watch the race if they're going to stay. So they went back to the fire hall. They quit staying and watch. They weren't going to donate 5 hours of their time and have to pay to watch a race. I mean, when we agreed to this, first of all, the machine was taken from the county to our township fire hall. We didn't agree to it. The board had to enter a contract after the fact. And nothing was mentioned about the racetrack. That was all done after the contract was entered into. We didn't know anything about it. We ended up having to pay our guys to take it out there and deliver it. And you know, like I say, on our policy, firefighters can't do anything by themselves, so we require 2 people in a vehicle.
Randy, your letter is confusing to me.
The letter in
Yeah,
February.
yeah,
I never intended that letter for you guys. I sent the letter to our board. That was prior to you receiving the bill in April. I gave that letter as a copy to Bob to explain the racetrack charges.
so it didn't get changed, is what you're saying, or it did?
No, it didn't get changed. The total of expenses for the racetrack was $879.84. I don't know what you billed the person at the racetrack for the ambulance to be there, for this to be available. Wasn't a party to any of that.
Well, that has nothing to do with this bill. So basically, what we're talking about is the training and maintenance. The maintenance and training and the mileage of $350.21. Is that correct?
Basically, we're talking about $541.33. Whichever pie you want to take it out of, it's really relevant to us.
When was, at what date did the ATV come back to the county maintenance department?
April of 2013, I believe you guys went and picked it up and brought it back here.
And what was the reason for that?
It was your vehicle, you picked it up, brought it back.
You were getting a new tanker and you needed a space, what we were told.
The township never communicated anything with you. I mean, we had our pickup set outside of our building all winter because we housed that. But we were fine with housing that vehicle and running it for you. The first communication board got was that it's gone. You took it back to the ambulance building or wherever you were housing it.
Well, the first information I got, Randy, was that they told us to get it out of there.
You never received anything from the board.
Never the case. It was a decision made by the ambulance director and the county to remove it and bring it back into town.
Director?
Excuse me?
Which ambulance
Was that you,
director?
Jason? It was with Casey. It was determined to bring it back and house it back at the ambulance hall. It was a decision made by the ambulance
To be
people.
honest, it was put in our fire hall without the board being notified. It was removed, and we were notified that it was
Without
removed.
the board? Your township board?
Yes. Yes, our fire chief agreed to it with the ambulance director, and they put it there, and then,
So now we're talking about two people that are not here to
well,
tell
Dwayne's
us
here.
anything about it.
Dwayne's here.
And I've been here since the beginning. Again, the decision to bring it there, Randy's absolutely correct. It was the chief at the time and
So that was
the ambulance
Kelly's
director.
decision to bring it there.
That was the original agreement to bring it there. We had
And it
no
was
problem.
Casey's agreement with Kelly, and now neither one of them are.
Yeah. And after it was brought there, we looked at it and looked like a pretty good fit for the ambulance service because when they have an ambulance run, they didn't necessarily have the extra personnel to run it. All of our guys have pagers, and it seemed like it could be a good thing for the county for us to be able to house it and do that. So the board agreed to it. We entered into a contract with Joe, and I did the initial contract. We wanted to base it like the Jaws of Life contract that we have with Tri-Town. Our original thought was $1,500 up front. The ambulance director didn't want that. The contract we agreed to was $1,000 up front. When the contract was written, it came in at $750. They had a problem with it being $1,000, and the thought was we could either take $1,000 and whatever the expenses were, we could keep it if there's anything left over, or if we did it at $750, that the board would reimburse us fully for any expenses we had with it.
Okay. Well, my understanding, and I got into this after the fact by quite a bit. My understanding was this letter indicated your total commitment, our total commitment over and above the 750.
Yeah, and that was never submitted to your board from us. When I met with Bob to explain the charges, I gave a copy of that letter to Bob to explain how those charges were arrived at.
Now, wait a minute. Which Bob?
Bob Berner.
Okay.
Commissioner
Berner. Because I know there was another Bob involved in this because he brought it up at the meeting, at your meeting,
Bob who?
Palmer.
Oh,
And that's when I first knew that we didn't have an agreement here.
well, we had an agreement. I mean,
Understood. You have a question back in the back.
If the original agreement, whether it was with this board or another board, was to agree to the $750, whether Bob is here or whoever was on the board before was here, the agreement was made to pay the township the money for $750. Why are you debating that now?
We paid the $750.
And now it's up higher.
Well, that was agreed with expenses too, was it not?
Then we paid $879.
Second payment.
That was the second payment. So
And to be
that's
honest,
over
when you paid the
$1,500.
$879, you should have paid $1,421, which is what our bill from April had indicated.
Right, understood.
Why didn't you still agree to the expenses?
You know, and that's our point. I just gave that letter that when
Well,
our,
our point here, Randy, was the time and mileage from the Luzerne Fire Department to the racetrack seemed excessive. And I think you agreed that it was excessive.
and that's why I showed Bob the letter. I cut it in half from what the fire department turned in for reimbursement. On the initial pay sheets, I went through Bob, they wanted 4 hours a day, and the mileage was considerably higher. The township reduced it, what we thought was a reasonable rate. If they took a long way around and took a scenic tour, they shouldn't have. They should have took a direct route, which is about 13 miles one
Understood.
way. And so that's what the 879 is, the direct route.
Okay, what we're talking about here is $541.33.
Correct.
How much of this do you want to pay, Jason?
I deal with none of it, but,
Okay, understood.
In the initial meeting with Jason, what he agreed to was that we should bill the county $143.30 and the ambulance service $398.03.
But it's not fair to hit Jason with this because he was not here at the time all this was made.
We're not hitting
He's
Jason,
not
it's an
understanding
ambulance
what's going on.
department expense.
Neither was us. We're trying to figure it out.
Well, I'm just saying it's an ambulance department expense.
Understood.
This should have been paid before Jason was here.
Mr. Bernard?
well, my question, what's this amount billed to the county? It's 143.
I can clarify that. The concern was one of the send routine maintenance for Luzerne instead of saying to Rod at the shop. And that's where I said that part and that fee should go to the county, not to us, because it should be, the county motor pool should have fixed it, not Luzerne, or I'm sorry, not Luzerne, I'm sorry, Lewiston. That was the thing, why we decided to negotiate with that. I think that's why we said that
That's what
price.
the cost was to repair the unit up in Lewiston?
No, that was the cost for our guys to run it up to Lewiston, the mileage. They had to make 2 trips to go
Okay.
there, pick it up.
But
And
But it's still going through Rod with the maintenance. If it's going through the county through the maintenance, it still should be billed to the ambulance division. Because that was their ATV being used, and it was stored over in Big Creek.
and your ambulance director directed our guys to take it there. I mean, it wasn't, we didn't make the decision, let's take it up to Lewiston and get something fixed. They were under the direction of,
This bill, total bill of $541.33 goes strictly to the ambulance division and be done.
Jack, that was sent to Lewiston to be repaired, and I knew absolutely nothing about it. That bill was shown to me,
Let me ask a question. You knew nothing about repairing it? or
I
you
knew nothing about them
nothing
being
it
sent to
going up
Lewiston.
there?
Yes. And it was like 6 months afterwards, they go, hey, we got this bill for $400 from Lewiston, will you look it over? And I looked it over and they go, half the stuff was stuff I had just done to it. You know, change the oil, put spark plugs in and all that. I said, well, I have no idea why it got sent up there. Casey sent it up there, I do not know why.
Right,
I had nothing to do with it. I would have repaired it.
right.
Understood. Mr. Bernard, do you wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to pay this bill of $541.33 to Big Creek Township.
Do I hear a second? I'll second. Roll call.
Can I ask one more question?
certainly.
Obviously, then, this letter for the 879 wasn't supposed to be for us.
The letter is public information. I gave it to my board ahead of time because when the fire chief submitted it, it would have been more around, I think it was $1,400, $1,500. I thought the charges that they wanted to bill were excessive, and so I went through their timesheets and put the mileage and the time where I thought it should be.
And you got voted down?
No, that's what we charged,
I mean,
is
that's what it
$879.
was.
That's the reduced rate.
That was the reduced.
Their billing would have been like $1,400.
Okay. So if it was $879.84, that would have been your bill for, at the top of this bill.
No, let me back up. That $879.84 was determined in February. We sent your bill in April. Your bill, instead of being $21.71, would have been $26.71.
Okay, well, I see this invoice for $416, and it's still got $1455.36 up there for manpower for ATV runs, including standby at the
That's my
racetrack.
point. We didn't do this billing till April. I took that to my board in February and said, this is what we should charge, because I think that they were overcharging it.
Okay.
So we made a
Why
reduction.
isn't that $879.84 up on the manpower for ATV runs instead of $1455.36?
We didn't know you'd want it all split out separately. We just gave you a bill in April.
Oh, because
That was total
like I
for
said,
runs and everything.
This is how I read it, is that's what we should have been paid for the racetrack, $879.84.
When
And then you add the $365.60 and the $350.21, that comes up to $895. And then we paid you $750, and that left $845.65, and then we paid you $879.84. I think you owe us $20.
I don't know where you took math.
Well, I'm just
No.
saying, if this letter, if this is what you said that you recommended and your board approved
For the racetrack portion in February, before we sent the bill out, that was one component of the total labor charges and everything. That was part of it.
Oh, so it would have been,
It was never the total labor. That's just what was dealt with at the racetrack. That's not for the actual runs that they did. That's not for the training that was done. I didn't give you all,
I don't have a copy of the February bill here. All I have is,
we didn't bill you in February. We billed you in April. I gave that to my board in February before we did the bill.
okay. Maybe I'm just not understanding this right, but if that was, if you said this letter that you gave your board, this is what I see the labor charges and everything for the racetrack, which, and on your April bill, it says manpower for ATV runs, including standby at the racetrack, $1455.36. But on your letter, you're saying it should have been $879.84, right?
That's just for the racetrack. The $1456 was all of it. That was the manpower for the ATV runs, plus the standby at the racetrack, taking it out and back. Unfortunately, it shouldn't have said standby. Ron put that in there. They didn't stand by. We didn't charge you for them staying at the racetrack. It's just taking there, delivering it, and taking our truck back to the hall.
So what is then the maintenance and training on this April bill, that's part of the broken down for the racetrack, or no? I don't know. See, I'm confused, Randy, because like I said, in my mind, I see the letter, 879.84, and then I see this. But the 879.84 doesn't match up.
The 879.84, if we go along with the original pay sheets that were submitted by Chief Smith.
See, and I don't have a February one.
These are the ones where, that's because we didn't bill you in February. We billed you in April. We expect you to pay the invoice without having to go through every hour and every mile.
Okay.
Okay? When I met with Bob, I gave him a copy of that letter, but the other sheets, these are the actual runs on the sheets when he went and he had an actual run with the
So
ambulance.
it's 879 plus these actual sheets.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and these were the sheets that were submitted for the ambulance. Now, when he did it, 26 miles, they were charging you 48 miles mileage. 24 miles one way, 24 miles
So
back.
those don't have anything to do with this February letter you wrote.
What I did is I took the hours submitted by the fire department. To bring the ambulance out to you, they charged you 4 hours of manpower and 48 miles, and then that in the evening.
Kind of like what your letter's saying.
I did include in my letter.
48,
Yes.
2 and 2.
I thought that was too high, so what I did is, they should have been able to go there in 26 miles, and it should have been 2 hours, an hour and a half. So I reduced it, and I told my board, we should not bill what the fire chief submitted, we shouldn't pay our guys for that. If they took a scenic route, spent a lot of time, they shouldn't have. We should take a direct
So
route.
shouldn't that figure be that instead of the 1455.36?
No,
No.
no, this is just to do with the racetrack. Only the racetrack miles.
So this is only to do with the race.
Manpower for ATV runs, including the racetrack. The total was 1455, but 879.84 was just the racetrack portion of it.
We had 3 medical runs on
So
top
it'd be
of that.
$565.52, okay.
See, I think where you're getting a little confused is that there's medical runs as well as.
In there, this isn't all just,
Oh,
Right.
okay.
And I didn't include all those, we didn't give you all those hours or whatnot. When I met with Bob,
In the middle of the woods,
Okay,
bringing someone out that was in a, had a
okay.
motocross
Now I
accident or
understand.
something like that.
yeah.
I thought at one time, we made an agreement with you, and we paid this off, and it was said paid in full on the bill.
You could have put paid in full, but it was
No,
never
it's
paid in
not.
full.
On your chart here, there's days where only one person took the ambulance out, another day only one person took it out, and you tell us we gotta pay for 2 for every day, and some days only 1 took them out.
I don't know when they had taken one person out.
It's 9/22/2012. 5/1, 5/19/2012. 5/20/2012. I'm going by your chart here. Then other times you got 4 people instead of 2. It don't make sense to me. Other days you got 2.
If they're toned out and 4 people respond, we pay them for toning out and we're going to the ambulance. Same as we have a fire. We may have 10 firefighters respond, we pay them all for coming out and responding.
They need to do this thing much
That's
better.
what volunteer fire department
Well,
is.
it's not gonna happen again.
I know, it's very confusing.
Not a motion.
We have a motion on the floor.
Can I please clarify the motion to pay Big Creek Township an amount of $541.33 paid out of the ambulance
Yes.
operation?
Yes.
Roll call.
Commissioner Gretner?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
No.
Commissioner Kishnet?
Yes.
Commissioner Garner?
Yes.
Commissioner Christianberry? Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
If I'm next on your agenda for the different issue.
Run back.
Come back, sit down, come back. I don't know if Mr. Wakely's here, if you want to.
He is not here.
Okay.
Go for it.
Before they change their mind.
I'm here to represent the Youth Advisory Council for the Heritage Days this summer we want to do. We're trying to get that, Cindy and Harry Hendricks have worked a ton with the Boy Scouts trying to get established for the county. We started having meetings and we're having big signups in January. We have, I think, 4 groups right now that are going to join. They're going to be kind of like the old 4-H groups, and one of them is a small animal group. They're trying to do a large animal group. The other one is photography and sewing and the handicapped horseback riding club. What we want to do is to have a venue so that those kids can work on something, display everything, and show off what they're doing. We want to do that in July at the fairgrounds. We're not going to have a county fair anymore. We weren't real successful with the county fair last year. We did lose a little bit of money. It was kind of disheartening as hard as we worked and it went. What they decided to do is do a Heritage Days, have an area where the kids can come out and camp out. We worked hard to try, actually I've got some guys concerned being scoutmasters so we can have actual Boy Scout and Cub Scout troops again, and to go through this. But I think it's important that we have somewhere where the kids can show their animals. We'd like to have a livestock auction so they can try and make some money with their animals, and to be able to show off their artwork and the different things. So we'd like to do that at Heritage Days, and we'd like to ask the commissioners to waive the fee for the rental of the fairgrounds for that weekend. If we have to raise $900 for the rental, it could be very difficult for us to, we're not looking for a fair where we're going out seeking a lot of sponsorships this year. We just want to keep it a really low-cost event for the kids to be able to show their animals, do their stuff, hopefully get people to come out and look at it, and have an animal auction and whatnot. So we really can't afford to pay $900 in rent for the fairgrounds for that weekend.
Is it for the 3 days?
Yes. 2 days. We shortened the day where,
Thursday night, Friday and Saturday.
the kids are gonna come out Thursday night, we're gonna kinda open to the public Friday and Saturday, I think is what we had talked about at the last meeting. We determined, I don't think, we're not sure if we're gonna charge a gate fee. We wanna try and get as many people as we can and just to come out and look and see what the kids are working.
At this time, no gate fee unless something really big comes in and.
Here's my thoughts on it. And I think last year, didn't we make a motion that it was a one-time only?
Yes.
Yes.
You did the
And
motion.
this has no effect on what we talked about before, because I've already talked about this and made my feelings known. If we say yes to you, Randy, then where does it, why is your group so much better than the relief sale that rents the fairgrounds, or anybody else that rents it? And then we're in the conundrum of why them and not us.
Well,
And-
the only thing I'd say is because we are a county board that you appointed us to do this for the youth of our county, and it is different than the Nor'easter or the relief sale. They're doing things to make money for their organizations, to have their fairs, to do their things. We're trying to provide something for our county as a county board.
Well, I see that, but I'm still in the position of why do we grant it to you and no one else, even though you are a county board? What if somebody else wants to go out and use the fairgrounds? And the fairgrounds, they gotta be self-sustaining,
Even if you charge us $900 for the weekend, you're gonna be hard pressed to be self-sustaining at the fairgrounds. I don't think it'll ever be profitable. And with the cost of maintenance out there, you'd be lucky to ever break even.
Well, we do have the storage and all that.
But it's just, we are working hard to, because we no longer have MSU Extension and 4-H for the kids, we want to try and get these programs up and running. And if we don't have a venue for them to show their animals or to do something, it just makes it difficult.
Aren't we, providing some funds for the membership for these people already?
We are not at this point. It is something that one of the questions I have, has this group, this county youth organization come up with a budget of any kind?
Not that I'm aware of.
Because I was in favor, and it's one opinion, that we would to make some money available to this group if and when we saw some form of a budget or some form of information that we could base a budget on. I would be willing to make that recommendation to this board. I do know there are some funds available that I might have to do some begging and crying to a certain organization to get the funds, but I would do that for our youth organization.
And if it's through our budget, we're able to pay the rent, and the county is going to include money within our budget, that is part of our expense or our budgetary amount, that's possible as well.
That's what I would recommend, and then we have ammunition that we can say, okay, they're paying, even though it's out of their budget, they're paying the fair share for the ambulance, or for, the ambulance.
Well, we're continuing the fairgrounds. Our next meeting for the Youth Advisory Council is, we're going to meet on January 6th. On January 13th, we're having a sign-up meeting where we're sending flyers to the schools for all the kids, for the
Randy,
groups.
we had to change that to the 20th.
Okay, the 20th, we're going to have a meeting.
I thought there was one on the 7th, at the Knights of Columbus.
No, that was the 13th. We had to change it to January the 20th.
Okay, I'm out of the loop as well. Some of the holidays, but January 20th, we'll have a sign-up meeting.
my
The Mile Lions
question-
Club have agreed to pay each club that joins, there's a $40 fee, and the individual children have to pay $17. For MSU Extension, they had to pay $10 a year, but to be a member, the kids have to pay $17. One of the things that we want to do is try and raise some funds to help the kids with that fee so that they can afford that. But I spoke with the Lions Club, they said they would pay the $40 fee for the, right now, we knew we had 4 clubs. They're just not sure whether to make the check out to the Oscoda County Commissioners to make it to our group, or exactly how to handle that.
They have no budget for this sport, just a per
We do
diem,
not.
just a per diem. They were supposed to go through the Boy Scouts to create that.
Right, but I do remember in setting this up that we had agreed that we would make funds available as, at least like the Lions Club, to pay that $40 fee for the groups, plus I think it was $1 per child.
And we weren't sure if, originally under the, through 4-H Advisory Council, they were a separate entity, had their separate checking account, so when organizations made a donation, they kept it separate. But because we're a county board, one of the things that I wasn't sure, we discussed at our meeting, does everything need to come through the county? Do we have a separate checking account, so we do it? And that's,
Yes, Bill?
My understanding when we first talked about this is they would not come through the county because they would be treated as a separate entity by going through the Boy Scouts. It's just that the county was going to put together a board to see how many groups could be part of this. But they'd actually be a separate entity through the Boy Scouts nonprofit. Therefore, all those funds would not come to the county, and any appropriations the county made would actually be funds given directly to them, not a budgeted item through the county.
The Boy Scouts didn't join in with you, did they?
yeah,
We're under the umbrella of the Boy Scouts, and the way it is right now, we still have, things that have to be sorted out yet. I mean, we're getting them, and this is new to me too. But the way it is right now with the Boy Scouts, we're under their umbrella, but we have our own organization. Our money does not go back to the Boy Scouts. The only thing that we have to participate with the Boy Scouts is selling popcorn, and we do get some fundraising out of that.
they have an annual popcorn drive in the fall where they go and encourage the kids to do it. The local groups keep, I want to say 35 or 40% of whatever they sell, and so then that is how they can pay the kids entry fees and stuff for 2014 and beyond. But until we have actual groups chartered and registered with the Boy Scouts, we're really not there yet because we've all taken our background checks on our board members. They've gone through and to make sure that we can work with youth and done background checks on us. Our group leaders have to go through the same process, and so the sign-up meeting on the 20th, the Boy Scouts will be there with all the paperwork for anyone that's interested in being a group leader and any children that are interested in signing up. So we're not part of the Boy Scouts yet until we actually go through that process and charter the clubs through them.
Do you have any idea how many kids will be in this?
The Small Animal Club had a little over 20 kids last year. I don't know how many were regular.
I don't know how many.
And I don't know on the photography club how many kids there were. Do you know on the pep club how many?
We have about 10.
They have about 10. The last time the Boy Scouts did a sign up in our county, they had 38 kids that wanted to be in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. They could not find a person that would be willing to be a scout leader. And so that's one of the difficulties. Every time you've had a sign up, there's interest in scouting. We just have to be able to try and find someone that will be a troop leader and be involved and to go forward with that as part of this as well. So, and I guess maybe it's premature, we've got till July, but if we develop a budget, it's possible to get your 2014 budget amended and add some funding for our 2014 budget to rent the fairgrounds for the Heritage Days.
I think that's the way I would like to leave it at this point.
Okay. We'll come back to you with a budget.
I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Has Mr. Wheatley made it? I don't see him out there.
Me?
Yeah.
Sure. Boy, you sound so excited. And I so appreciate that, Jack.
Yeah, well,
Not that I don't want to hear you, but.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I'll probably still be talking when you get back. According to Jack, I will be.
that's true.
I will try to keep it brief. What I'm looking for today is, I was made aware of a product. It's called Smart 911. And what it does is it's an internet-based product that assists our 911 already in place system. And it works with the different vendors. Frontier is our vendor for our actual 911 service. And it works with them to be able to reach out to the public and be able to ask for their input on what they may need as far as their medical information, things like that. Basically, I'll read this part of it. So, Smart 911 is a software-based system that works with our current 911 system to provide call takers and first responders with additional critical call data about the subscriber to help speed up the response times and improve effectiveness. Basically what it amounts to is the client, the citizen or otherwise, would register all of their phones, whether it be a landline, cell phone or otherwise. It'll give pertinent information about them, and that information will be made aware to us when they call. I pick up my cell phone, I dial 911. If I have a heart condition or I live on a road, these are some of the areas that I see that would be great. Is, obviously we have the 911 signs in place, but it may take 3/4 of a mile to get back in off the roadway to be able to find them. They can give turn-by-turn directions to be able to find the location. They can give the medical information, they can give vehicle information, they can give house information, they can give whether or not they've got a handicapped individual that lives at their residence. I can see us working with the senior centers, through DHS, through mental health, these organizations to try to bring people into this system to be able to register. And again, it goes to the person to be able to register all this information. But I think we have enough other groups that can kind of assist our citizens and the public to be able to register for this program. That's what they do. They go online, they go to Smart 911, and it asks them whether or not they want to sign up their phone. And they do so. There's no cost to that person whatsoever, and they can enter 50 phones if they would like. If everybody in their household has one, you have 5 cell phones, they can enter all the cell phone information with all the same data, and they can enter their landline. So it doesn't matter where they call from, it's going to give pertinent information about that caller and or a family member. They may have an autistic child or otherwise that has special needs. That information can be passed on to EMS, on to fire departments, etc. Again, some of the things I see is the turn-by-turn directions a lot of times getting in there. I mean, it may go down the road and then all of a sudden branch off 3 different times. They can say take the right Y, and go that way, and then go down another 1/4 of a mile with a green residence with a Ford pickup, blue in color out front of the residence or otherwise. All that information, again, speeds up the data to where the call taker isn't having to ask question after question after question, and now the response time is even getting greater. So that information is made available to the dispatcher in an icon that they can, it brings up that they are registered. So I call 911, it comes up with the data that Kevin Grace lives at such and such of an address, the normal information, but now it's going to give whether or not, say I have a heart condition, or whether or not I have an elderly family member that still lives in my residence and has other types of needs. So now we can start preparing that, okay, maybe I'm the one that's having the difficulty. Now I need to know that, you know, I have a mother or a father that's staying with me that needs care. So now I'm going to start working with other organizations that not only get an ambulance to the scene, but to be able to try to get you know, somebody else there to help caretake them. And it'll also allow you to put in numbers for other family members outside the residence. You know, now you're dealing with a caregiver of a patient. It's the caregiver that has the problem. Now we need to worry about the person, the patient that is living there, the handicapped person or otherwise. And now it may have a number for a son or a daughter downstate that we can call now, and again speed up the process to be able to get them the assistance that they need. So the company itself has proposed an offer. Again, I'm looking for support for that. I will say that I have the funds available, and I think from past experiences or otherwise, I could probably just go ahead and do this, but I want to make the board aware of it so everybody's on the same page so we understand what it is when we start getting in bills or otherwise. Again, I think it's a good product. I've talked to, there's 6 agencies within the Michigan that have it right now. There's Eaton County, Ionia, Grand Traverse just came on board, Kalkaska is coming on board, and Crawford County is coming on board. So I'm hopeful that, you know, maybe some of the other surrounding counties will do the same eventually. So, and what it amounts to is anybody that signs up for this service, an agency, my agency, if there's somebody from downstate that signed up their cell phone or their landline or otherwise, they can come to our agency, and I'm going to get the same data that I would if you're a citizen of Oscoda County. It doesn't matter where you're at. It just matters whether or not your phone is registered with them. It's all encrypted data. It's not sold to anybody. There's no chance of anything. Well, okay, I can't say no, but there's very little chance of things happening. We got Target and whatever else. So basically, you know, we have things out there that anybody can do something, but I'm being assured that it's encrypted data and not made available to anybody other than who signs up for the service itself. Again, they're in 34 states, 450 agencies throughout the nation. And again, I could be traveling to Florida, and I know that one of them that has it is Knoxville, Tennessee. If I'm going through that area and something happens to me or my spouse or otherwise, if I have registered my phone, it will show up on their system. So if they're a participant with this Rave Smart 911, my information will be made available to them to hopefully speed things up to get to me. So again, a lot of the things that I'm seeing are, you know, directions to hard to find places, medical information, key placements. A lot of times what we'll have is somebody wants to call you up and say, can you mark it down somewhere that I have a key hidden underneath a rock outside of the big tree or otherwise, okay? I don't have a venue to be able to do that, so this would give us the venue to be able to have that. Now I can go ahead and when EMS is getting on scene, they can't get out of bed, I can pass it on to EMS that, you know, according to our information, they have a key hidden under such and such, or here's the keypad information, or whatever the case may be, or 2 neighbors down has a key to the residence, go talk to them. So that also assists them. Vehicles in the driveway, contact information, things like that. So some of the areas that I guess I could see that we could branch out with is working with the senior centers. That's another thing as a company will do is they provide flyers or flyer material. You obviously print them off yourself, but the information could be downloaded, printed off to go to the senior center to be able to work with them on a, one day a month or something like that, to have the seniors come to there to be able to assist with them. Maybe working with the library to see if they can go ahead and assist them in registering their phone and information. Mental health. I mean, obviously, they have clients that come in that are being provided services. That information could be downloaded with somebody's assistance for them, and they could do that. The schools. We could work through information for handicapped children or autistic children or otherwise that have special needs. You can even put photos on this thing. I gave some of the flyers that they had sent to me. You can put photos on there. You can put anything else that you want. You can put as much or as little. I did talk to I think it was the Crawford or the Kalkaska 911 director. He said it goes into such detail, he actually quit after a while because he decided at that point he didn't need to enter every single thing. But, you know, that probably the only drawback that I guess I see on it, that it will take and take and take. But the more information we have, and I guess if I was put in that situation and needed the assistance in a hurry, okay, 20 minutes or so isn't all bad to be able to make sure it's down once, it doesn't expire, there's no cost again to the community or the citizens, you know, other than the cost that it's going to do with the one. But I think that it can be paid through 911 funding, and that has already been assured by the other 911 directors that have already checked into this. One of the ones, Grand Traverse County, this Jamel Anderson, I think, she's kind of our district coordinator for our 911 PSAPs in the area, and she was on board with this. They use the Cherry Fest festival as a place that they go ahead and promote it big time, and they have a table set up, and they can help. They work with people to try to help them set up and get online with the system. So again, I think you got the proposal there. There's a savings, obviously, and this is why I apologize somewhat for the lateness on the one with the holidays, with some of the information I was trying to find out, and my not understanding the process to when it had to be done. Obviously, they're looking to have it signed by the end of the year, which is like tomorrow. So I'm looking to sign on to this if the approval is given. There is a savings, obviously. They're trying to get organizations within Michigan to get on board with it. And so they have reduced the rate quite a bit. As you can see in there, I think it was $10,000 for the first time setup, and the yearly fee that's attached. They've lowered that to $6,500, which $2,000 is for the installation, training, and setup of the feature, and then $4,500 a year per year for that. And again, for
$4,500 for what?
For licensing fee and maintenance associated with it.
They do the maintenance?
Yes, they do. Again, it's an online, internet-based, so they can do things remotely. They gave a chart of timeliness or otherwise. They can have you back up and running, and within 20 minutes to a half hour, they have 24/7 call information. I talked to Grand Traverse County, and they had one little glitch, and they said they'd give them a call, and within a very short time, they were back up and running again. And again, it's not taking down your 911 system, it's just enhancing what it's able to do. So even if it was down for a short period of time, it's not going to, obviously we'll go back to the old style of exactly the way we're doing things now. It's just, obviously, it enhances what you're able to do with it. So, and again, it's a 5-year, but there is a standard 90-day out clause. So if we're not happy with the way things are going, the services not being provided, there is the 90-day out. So you basically renew every year up to the 5. The 5-year it guarantees you at the lower rate for the extended period of time is what it amounts to. So. Again, I know it seems costly, but I think that the service that we will be able to provide will be greatly enhanced. It puts the information back to the person that at a good part in their life is able to put it in correctly, rather than maybe giving you a false information when they're frantic and trying to get you the information at the time of the call. And this here, we can now just maybe confirm, say, okay, you live at such and such an address, I show you, take this, that, and everything, and they can confirm it with you, rather than saying, okay, give me turn-by-turn directions when they're trying to care for their loved one as they're having some type of medical or other needs.
So in other words, this project is only good as the data put in.
Sure, it is, and that's where I think that we need to promote it within the county for all the different organizations. Again, I gave you guys a DHS. I think we could get a hold of Wellsprings with their assisted living. I think you can go through DHS to try to help people to understand what you're able to do. Human Service Coordinating Council, library, fire.
GPS based. That's with your old system.
Yes, it'll do the same thing, but it is GPS based. All the data will be the same as what's on your 911 PSAP now when it comes up with the anti-alley, which gives you the information as far as what your address is and your GPS location. But this will just enhance it by giving you everything else that they put in there. And what I'm going to try to encourage the folks is make sure that you're giving good detailed information on there, and that's where I'm hopeful to work with, say the library. I mean, I think that they would jump on board with this. They've got the computers. I'm guessing that I might be able to twist my my director at the senior center possibly to go ahead and help out and get the word out with that
Definitely.
kind of stuff.
But I look on this and it says responsibilities too. It says support for technical deployment, purchasing. Do you have is that server? Because it says necessary.
Yes, and I did check with them. There was one agency that their server did not support whatever it was. So I would have to work with Dan to make sure that is the case. So
that was my next question. How much is Dan going to be involved in? Where'd he go?
He left, but he'll be back for his part of it there. So
because I want to know, he's getting stretched pretty thin, and I just want to know how much time is this going to take for him? Can we bill you?
Other than to, I still think it's an important project to where I don't think it's going to be very labor intensive once it gets set up. I can't tell you because I'm not there, but I did talk to both Crawford and Kalkaska. Crawford, I believe, had just gotten their server because they were, I think, the one that needed to get a new server because theirs wouldn't support whatever it was.
But your funds would cover that
yes,
too?
Yes, they would. And I asked the price on that, and they were under. Well, the one had to get a modem also through Frontier, and everything was under $2,000. So I still believe that we can keep the cost down low enough on the initial setup to where everything else is going to be beneficial.
I understand, Kevin, and I appreciate that you already have the authority to do this,
right.
And you're just giving us a heads up.
That's what I'm trying to do.
It's just, I, in my short time sitting here, it just seems that you hear something and then other things come trickling in after we agree on
I
this.
agree with that full.
And I want to be careful, and I wholeheartedly support you on this, but I just wondered, we had that 911 sign ordinance out there for how long? 5 years, and if people don't want to participate, it's only going to be as good as the people's participation.
And I agree with that. But
yes, Jason.
I was just going to ask, with this system, we're able to do we can update the information ourselves, right? If we're going to these houses.
You have to have them, but you could go to their residents and explain to them the need for this, and yes, I had also had fire departments, EMS down there because you go to the same residences a lot. So I think that being able to work with that person to be able to get the information in, they could give you the authority to go ahead and put that information in. Yes, they could.
Most of the information he's talking about, we already data collect through our own terminals. It's all secure data for data collection for the state. To be able to have that available to us, to a call would be a godsend, really. To know what we're going into, what kind of, these people's allergies, people's kind of.
And that's a lot of the
or even directions to get there would be great.
Dwayne, don't go nowhere. Because this is just basically, it's an electronic configuration of your, what is that, file of life.
Yes.
Now, do you guys use that a lot?
They're given out, and they're kept at the residences, yes.
Are those used?
They are.
Because we've handed out millions of them.
They're typically stuck on top of the refrigerator and the magnets, so we're told to look. Or the old one used to be the vial of life, which was an actual pill bottle looking thing that had medicine in it, or had the paperwork in it. We use those, but the great thing about having the system is this gives us information ahead of time getting there.
Well, I understand that, but my question is, for the participation of people, are they using these files of life?
They are. They're just not downloading it, obviously, on a computer to where it's available that way. So I had forgotten about that, so hopefully maybe we can work with groups to be able to take that information and then have that download on the computer.
And just put it in, give it to you.
Right, exactly.
Or this serve system. They don't call the sheriff's department. No, they call the computer people, right?
Yeah. Well, they don't call them. They go online is what they do. They go on to smart911.com. And then that's where they get. But I think that if we can work through the senior centers, and I think if we can work through the library, etc., I mean, I think it can be done.
Well,
and if nothing more, possibly send some things out in the flyers with tax time and things like that.
And the paper would help us too.
Right. And work with some family members. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of times we're getting called by family members saying, okay, mom and dad, they're having a
aren't
little bit of a
answering the
problem, or
phone.
otherwise, exactly. Direct them to this, they can start adding their information for mom and dad. I mean, they've got all the information, they can go ahead and enter that data, so.
Okay.
Just to follow that, I think that we'd have no problem on our side volunteering our time to data input the information to the computers for people. And I had no problem doing it myself personally, and I think
Yeah.
my crews would too.
And I've
Because it
got
helps us out
a couple
tremendously.
techie volunteers, I think, that I could probably get on board with that too, so I think we could do that.
Well, I can help, you know that.
Yep, nope, and you were
I just
top on
wanted
that
to
list.
make, you know,
Yeah.
it's only as good as we get the
You're
information. we get.
exactly right, you're exactly right, but if we can do one life out of the whole deal, then
Yeah, I guess it's
to
worth
me,
it.
I guess it's worth the $6,500 bet to
Thanks for
start off with, so.
giving me the heads up,
Yep.
giving us the heads up, Kevin.
Does anybody else have any questions or what?
You're 10 days past the deadline.
Yeah, I know that was, but they've extended that, I've got till tomorrow, but they do need the one, so yes, they have, so, yeah.
It's a good program.
Yeah. I guess I don't know if I need a motion, if you do, I'll.
Do we?
Okay, I would appreciate it.
Make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion to approve the Smart
Smart,
911
yep,
proposal?
yep, with Oscoda County Sheriff's Department, our office as presented and recommended by Sheriff Kevin Grace.
Pass.
I have a motion by Grantner, supported by Berners. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you very much.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
I called the housing department, he had stopped in and left already, and called the cell phone and no answer, so hopefully nothing missed. No sign of him downstairs, so. I don't know.
Well, do we or don't we? I mean, basically, all well,
We can, you know, if he shows up.
we don't know what rate or what the effective date is, correct?
No.
All right, put that on the bottom of your pile, folks. We'll go on to old business. Ambulance EMS Department propane vehicle purchase discussion.
Okay. You put me as committee person for this, and we did meet, I forgot the date. It's last Friday? 23rd. We met with Albert Benzio, he's the chairman of the people who put in the propane converters. The committee, you know, when we left, Bob had to leave, he left early because of his father being ill. Dave and Rod were there, and I appreciate Rod being there, and Dave. Dave especially, because he was asking some questions that were about engines and things that were way over my head, but he seemed to get his answers. When we left, Rod's position was he's warming up to the idea. Dave's, he agreed he was warming up to the idea. Bob wasn't there, so I didn't get his input on this. What I see is the problem being the ambulance operational budget is getting thin right now, and there's no millage. This is a solution to save some money by being locked in on the fuel cost. I think our maintenance costs will go down because we're going to have brand new vehicles. And in my opinion, like I said, I think we should go for it. Otherwise, we're going to end up subsidizing the ambulance department, I think, unless it makes the revenues it should, or it's going to, or proposed. If we go with diesel, we lose our fuel savings. If we go with not getting all the 4 ambulances, which should have been being turned out at a regular basis, so the turnover wasn't all at once, that's going to help. But I've heard the question, that's a lot of money. Yes, it is a lot of money, but that's what the millage was for, to buy equipment. It wasn't to run the operations. The millage stated specifically it was to buy ambulance equipment. And that's what I'm saying we should do. Now, I don't know if the other committee members, if you want to give your 2 cents in right now, but I said that's the only viable option I see. If we're in this to save some money, to keep the operations going, this is the way to do it. The propane people came up, they will pay for the insurance for the tank, so there's no cost to us on that. It's a 1,000-gallon tank. The people, what is this, ICOM will train Rod. It takes about 4 hours to train Rod on how to be certified to work on these things. They will certify all our people into handling the gas. Rod, you got anything? I mean, if you disagree, fine, disagree,
No.
but that's why we had the committee.
No, I agree with you.
Dave?
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm not in total agreement.
Okay.
The difference in the fuel, the price, the cost, the amount of energy in diesels compared to propane. You remember when I asked the man if we could have a comparison of diesel to propane as opposed to comparing gasoline with...
Well, yeah, that'd be
with,
like saying that
with
there's a
the
lot
diesel.
more BTUs in a gallon of fuel oil than there is
Right.
in the same amount of natural gas. But what I saw was, what they told us, and I don't know, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that there wasn't that much of a cutoff from what they were getting mileage-wise with diesel as they will with propane. And we did get a letter, or Jason got a letter, and I'm sure you guys weren't privy to it, but it was, what, $1.94 they quoted you as the price, and that's without the 50-cent rebate. So our total cost for gas for next year would be $1.44 a gallon. And, but what?
I was saying that's actually at winter rates. In the springtime, it goes down. So if you lock in at springtime rates, it's considerably lower. We're looking at $1.69 a gallon, less 50 cents from if the government chooses to renew its.
So it'd even be down to $1.29 a gallon. And
Right.
a gallon is a gallon. That's what they're selling, like he told us. They can sell it in pounds, but they will sell it in gallons. And that 1 gallon of propane is comparable to 1 gallon of gas.
With the exception that, according to the government,
What, 15 to 20% less?
it's a gallon of propane has 73% of the energy in a gallon of gasoline. And then when you go over to diesel, diesel has 113% of the energy as compared to gasoline. So gasoline is a standard, but diesel outperforms gasoline, we know, and propane underperforms, according to the government, gasoline. So there's a deficit there in your energy.
Well, there's a deficit, but then the propane or the diesel is going to cost almost 4 times more as the gas. You know? And like I said, try to remember the main objective here is to save money. And if these ambulance if the ambulance roll over every 4 to 5 years, Jason, and they have about 200,000 miles on it, you know, again, I know diesels last a lot longer, but again, our objective is to save money in maintenance costs and in fuel costs to save the operational part, because the operations was defeated last time. And, you know, we're hoping that the ambulance is going to make money on its revenue side. The equipment was not operations, I'm sorry. But we need new ambulances. Right? And that's where I'm at.
Wasn't there a problem with the wording on the last millage, the previous millage, because it was set
all
up?
kinds of problems with it,
Well,
Dave.
what I'm saying is that the issue wasn't really clear. That
Well, but the voters voted, you know, and they voted twice, and they voted it down. And again, the millage money he's got right now cannot go to anything else but equipment. So if we need the equipment and the ambulance needs to be turned over, turn them over, you know? Yes.
I'm sorry, I gotta say, I know there was investigations done on propane run vehicles, and we know how gasoline works. but this is something totally new, combining two technologies.
I don't think it's that new.
Well, I've not
This
seen
guy-
any examples, and has anybody come across any counties that have combined these two technologies? That's my,
Yes.
Actually, several. There's biogas and biogas. The biofuel is what we're looking at. The biofuel, it's a pretty common technology. It's been used a lot of places. In ambulances, it's fairly newer. There are 2 services that use them primarily right now, and they swear by them because of the greatest things. They love it. As far as other services, most of them are county bus services, and they use biofuel. They use gasoline and propane both. The gasoline primarily gets the engine up to a temperature it needs to be at, which is, I think, 145 degrees. Once at the temperature, it switches to propane exclusively. And then in our case, it would do that, and it also allows an additional extended range if we need to switch back. For example, if we're down in Flint taking a transfer under Hurley, and we run out of fuel, it'll switch over to gasoline automatically. So we're carrying both fuels on board. The technology is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple, at least from the pictures it is. From what I've heard said, it's extremely, extremely reliable. They've been doing it for quite a long time.
What did he say? You've been in that business for what, over 15 to 20 years,
Yeah.
and they've never had a serious accident with their product.
Right. The couple of things to add too. As far as power goes, we were able to match. They originally told us we'd lose 5% of our power, horsepower-wise, and we'd lose about a mile a gallon. Benzie was able to match that and say that's about spot on where we were. So the expected power loss is minimal. I mean, it's not even negligible really for us. And that was kind of one of the huge benefits of it. So we're gaining in mileage, and we're gaining in fuel costs by saving, and we're also we're losing a mile a gallon. It's to be totally worth it. We're also increasing our range.
Well, and then, there is the part of it's greener fuel. It burns cleaner. It burns a lot cleaner. The guys who, I talked to Schwann's, and again, I told the committee this, they have 3,700 trucks. They run exclusively on propane. They used to change their oil every 6,000 to 8,000 miles. Now they change it around 24,000. And when they pour the oil out, it almost looks like the oil they poured in because it's so clean. The propane just does not burn carbon. Naturally, we're going to get a little bit with the gas, so we might not get 24. We might get 18, or still, that's double and triple of the oil changes we have now.
What about miles per gallon?
There's a negligible effect, according to
7 miles per gallon both ways, gas and propane. And what are we getting for diesel?
Actually, that was only in Benzie buses. That's not for the ambulances.
What I've heard. And I also got a thing from Governor Snyder, December 27th. Governor Snyder declared a state of emergency in Michigan due to lack of propane.
Upper Peninsula.
Upper Peninsula, but it's coming down here. Terry Binks, Gaylor Gas, I was there Friday. He says if you're not locked in first year, your propane's probably going to double because of a shortage. And he also said that that figure does not include 6% sales tax, 15 cents tax for state roads, 13 cent federal tax roads that were not included in your prices.
We also don't pay taxes though. We're a municipal agency.
You're not?
No. We are a municipal agency. We don't pay taxes on fuel.
That ain't what he said.
Well,
He said he don't believe you can get that price. And he said you never notified him, so he don't know what's going
I
on.
don't know who that is anyway. Who are you talking about?
Terry
Terry
Rhodes.
Terry Rhodes?
Yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Gaylor Gas.
He's 70 cents higher than anybody else in town.
He said it's gonna go higher too.
But it always goes, see, I've had propane, I've lived up here for close to 30 years. It always goes high in the winter. You buy low in the summer, and then you get locked in, just like Jason said. Anyhow,
You're taking a gamble it's gonna go low.
they're even taking a gamble that diesel isn't going to go up to $6 a gallon either.
It was at 394 this morning, just so you know.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How does that work? You start out with gasoline, and then does it automatically convert over to propane?
Correct. It's got its own switching system. It automatically converts it. You won't even notice it when it does it. It's actually very quiet. It's actually a little bit quieter when it runs on propane. But once the engine gets up to its appropriate running temperature to run the propane, it switches over automatically and just uses drive. Instead of having a fuel gauge, you'll see a light system. It'll be like a red light, then yellow, then green, not necessarily in that order. And that'll tell you where you're at in fuel. When it switches back over, if you run out of propane, for example, when it switches over, it switches right over to gas, you'll never notice the difference. It just directly injects propane into the engine itself. So. The other advantage of it too is that when we look at the prices of the ambulances, we're saving $2,000 an ambulance by doing propane right off the bat because the cost of a diesel engine versus gas is considerably cheaper. That's including adding the propane system in place. We're saving money. So right off the bat, we're in the positive, which is rare, especially when you're doing conversions like this.
So what does a conversion kit cost?
7,000.
I know something you said with all the 4 ambulances that you may be getting,
right,
it's going to be like $7,000 to $8,000 conversion kit. So that's around $30,000 for all.
Correct. The base price is $7,000. He's given us a fleet discount at $6,700. I put it in the estimates at $7,000 just to be safe, because it's going to be not until June when we get these trucks. So that's what we're looking at. But it's $7,000 on top of the actual gas engine itself. So we're still under the cost of a diesel engine. Did you have a question?
All I can tell you folks is I drove a propane truck for 3 years and never had a problem with it. And I've talked to my former employer and they still swear by it. And I think it's time that we started to look at going into the 21st century here in Oscoda County. And I think we need to step up to the plate. And I'm going to entertain a motion, if you're prepared to do that, Mark.
No, I'm going to make a motion, whether, live or die. A motion to purchase the 2 new ambulances and to remount 2 ambulances from Kodiak Emergency Vehicles in Lansing, Michigan, in the amount of $569,746 with gas engines with propane conversions to be paid out of 102 ambulance equipment expense line 102-651-977.00 and so amend the 2014 budget.
I'll support.
I have a motion by Grantner, supported by Christenberry. Roll call. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Kishnick.
Yes.
Commissioner Warner.
Yeah.
Commissioner Christenberry.
Yes.
Commissioner Grantner.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
No.
Motion passed. Does anybody need to take a 5-minute break? If so, make the motion.
I make a motion to take 5 minutes.
Support? Motion by Christenberry, supported by Berger. 5-minute break. Be back here at 11:25. 7 minutes.